Hi folks, it's Lisa here. I guess I'm welcoming you to our open house. A little bit different than what many of you are used to, I know. And I remembered Jim Prophet when he first started these open houses across the road at the Red House. And for those of you who still have those invites from the earlier 2000s kicking around, you'll remember that what it said was, and I quote, "a celebration of Advent or anything else you would like to celebrate." And he did that a little tongue-in-cheek, but we followed suit and we kept that for many, many years. And to me, what it represented was a welcoming of everyone, which is, as you know, who we are to the core. So we welcome you all. We welcome you all to see Father Bill do his usual creation poem, see Eric do, who knows, I don't know if he's going to pull out some Leonard Cohen or what he's going to do, but it's a little bit of us longing for you and us remembering you. And in those past open houses, you know, we had that anticipation, that joy, the food, we sung, and we hugged, and we kissed. So that's what all of this is, only in a video, if you can imagine. And of course we are offering this video instead of our usual fare because of the circumstances that we find ourselves in the world right now. And interestingly, in that situation we find ourselves in, you know that we've been closed since March 13th. And when we did close, we imagined we'd be open in a couple of weeks. Well, that seems like centuries ago now. So we're still here. We're still operating. We offer you virtual retreats for 2021. Please check all of those out. But what we do have here right now, which is touching my heart, as I said to Father Greg just this morning, what we have right now are 40 people experiencing homelessness, the most vulnerable of our community, living here. And every day is a day of grace. They've been here almost a month now. Every day is a day of learning. It's a day of building relationships, establishing connections, and I couldn't imagine us doing anything else but that right now. But we'll do that. We're going to do that for about 12 months. And then in between that time, we are going to desperately imagine what it would be like to reopen. So I hope you enjoy what you're about to watch. I haven't seen it, so I'm the intro. And I am looking forward to watching it. Now, I'll imagine each of you sitting beside me when I do so. God bless. Merry Christmas.
A poem, Advent 2020. First it was a bridal veil, then a blindfold. Now the cloth has slipped one more rung down around our nervous mouths to curtain compulsive lip biting. If ever we get out of this COVID-covered life alive, we'll scream Alleluia into strangers' naked faces. And maybe our own ringing ears, freed from the bonds of stretchy chains, will catch a spark of the good news and go up like a hay barn, set ablaze by a smoking tramp asleep, passing through dreamlands as he goes by the name Emmanuel. So my COVID song, my COVID Advent song this year is one by Leonard Cohen. Not your typical, the most famous Alleluia song by him, but one that's very, very appropriate for this COVID Advent. You got me singing, even though the news is bad. You got me singing, the only song I ever had. You got me singing, ever since the river died. You got me thinking of the places we could hide. You got me singing, even though the world is gone. You got me thinking that I'd like to carry on, oh, singing, even though it all looks grim. You got me singing a hallelujah hymn. You got me singing like a prisoner in the jail. You got me singing like my promises in the mail. You got me singing. Our little love would last. You got me thinking, like those people of the past. You got me singing. Even though the world is gone, you got me thinking. I'd like to carry on, oh, singing. Even though it all went wrong, you got me singing the Hallelujah song. Singing the Hallelujah song. Singing the Hallelujah song. Happy Advent and Merry Christmas.
Hello everyone, happy Advent to you all. I'm going to share with you this little poem of the donkey from Prayers from the Ark. O God, who chose me to trudge along the road always, to carry heavy loads always, and to be beaten always. Give me great courage and gentleness. Lord, one day let somebody understand me so that I may no longer want to weep because I can never say what I mean and they make fun of me. Let me find a juicy thistle and make them give me time to pick it. And one day, Lord, let me find again my little brother of the Christmas crib. Amen.
Hello everyone. If you're fortunate enough to be able to walk our grounds this holiday season, you might see me wandering around myself with my camera, taking pictures of things that happen to move me. Not too long ago, I wrote a small piece on my my photography hobby for Ignatius, a Jesuit blog, and I thought I'd share it for you today. Since moving to Guelph, a passing hobby of mine has become something of a passion. While I've always taken pictures of places where I've lived or visited, it was usually to serve a practical purpose, to show friends and family back home what I've been up to since joining the Jesuits. But it wasn't until I arrived in Guelph to begin my Regency assignment at Loyola House that this activity became less practical and more personal. It has become an end in itself. So take, for example, this tree featured here. If one is looking north from inside Loyola House, it stands very prominently, alone, in the middle of a field. It's hard to miss, and so when I first visited here, I took a picture of it and then promptly moved on to something else and then forgot about it. But since moving here, I've returned to that same tree again and again. And each time I see, even experience, something new. A new shade in the leaves as the seasons change. New cloud formations that surround it. New colors in the sky that illuminate it. In my brief stay here, I believe I have come to appreciate more deeply how a place, even a familiar place, can still have secrets to reveal, and that these secrets are not revealed quickly or easily, but rather through a process of faithful engagement. I think it has been in this process that I have found a new and deeper way of connecting with God. A God whispering in the wind, leaves, and even snow. A God who is hiding in the smallest of details that just barely manages to catch my eye. A God who manages to reveal something new of himself, if only ever so slightly, in that same tree as I walk past it again and again. And so in my better moments, I dare to hope that a few of my photographs somehow manage to capture something of what I feel I'm seeing as I walk along. They serve to remind me not just of a tree, field, or plant, but of an experience behind it, such as the ones I'm sharing with you today from a couple of months ago. They're of a sunset I remember as being particularly spectacular, the likes of which I've never quite seen before. But beyond that, they're of an experience that I remember, an experience of something almost approaching awe, experience of seeing not just a tree, or clouds, or sky, but of something more. An experience of standing alone in the middle of a wide empty field, seeing heaven nearly touch the earth.
This poem is called Revelation. We dirt worshippers, entwined in solar service, rising tired, repeatedly, full of purpose, backs bent, bruised knees, content, knowing the moment when the sun catches the mist in the low-lying meadow, sending the starlings soaring in their collected chaos over the impossibly green orchard. All will be revealed.
Season's greeting to all of you. Thank you for coming to our online open house, for journeying with us throughout the year, throughout a period of changes. I ask special prayers for myself, as I myself am also going through changes. I will be going to Portland in Oregon for a period of 4 months to do my tertianship, a period of Jesuit formation where we go through the exercises and some seminars before we take our final vows. And so please pray for me during that period between January and May. And I will keep you in my prayers as I do the exercises. Thank you again for all of your support and your love for us throughout the years. Merry Christmas.
This is from a little book called Cautionary Verses by Hilaire Belloc. Despite his French name, he was English, a close friend and associate of Chesterton in the 1930s. The poem is called John Henderson. John Henderson, an unbeliever, had lately lost his joie de vivre from reading far too many books. Despair inhabited his breast and made the man a perfect pest. Not so his sister, Mary Lunn. She had a whacking lot of fun. Though unbelieving as a beast, she didn't worry in the least, but drank as hard as she was able and sang and danced upon the table. And when she met her brother Jack, she used to smack him on the back so sharply as to make him jump and cry, "What ho, you've got the hump!" The phrase which more than any other was gall and wormwood to her brother. For having an agnostic mind, he was exceedingly refined. The Christians, a declining band, would point with monetary hand to Henderson, his desperation, to Mary Lunn, her dissipation, and often mutter, "Mark my words, something will happen to those birds," which came to pass, for Mary Lunn died suddenly, at 91, of cysticosis, not before becoming an appalling bore, while Henderson, I'm sad to state, though naturally celibate, married an intellectual wife who made him lead the higher life and wouldn't give him any wine, whereby he fell in a decline, and at the time of writing this is suffering from paralysis, the which we hear with no surprise will shortly end in his demise. The moral is, it is indeed, you mustn't monkey with the creed.
Happy Advent! Christina Higgins and I have a song for you that really has a lot of wonderful metaphor in it for the time we are living these days. Written by Daniel Cantor. It's called Night of Silence. Cold are the people, winter of life, we tremble in shadows this cold endless night. Frozen in the snow lie roses sleeping, flowers that will echo the sunrise. Fire of hope is
Alexandria, and I contributed a painting that I did many moons ago. It's of a hand that is pointing forwards, and there's music coming from it. With these blue and white swirls that are in the background. And I made it several years ago, but it still kind of strikes me, and I carry it with me wherever I go. What you don't see in the painting is that there's also a cotton string that is glued in a circle, starting from where the finger and the music meet, and it radiates out in a spiral. And for me, that symbolizes that creativity isn't just this linear thing that happens. It's something that is cyclical. It takes reflection. It takes synthesizing and bringing in elements from all over into yourself and then putting it out again. And it's really, for me, a celebration of everything that can be achieved when everything is looked at in the whole, and then something new can come from it. So I hope you enjoy it. Thanks.
This is a delightful story by David Wilson. It's entitled God's Birth Dance. Once there was a god who really did not know she was a god. In fact, she really did not know much about herself at all. She was asleep. She mostly floated around on dark water, occasionally sinking down into its depths or rising to the top like cream. And it was dark, so dark. I mean, like nothing to look at all, just so much not yet floating around. No one knows why or how. Maybe a wave startled him. Maybe why and how are the wrong questions. I mean, before God woke up, there was no why or how. But at the moment that God woke up, light shot out in all directions, and he caught himself smiling. And then after a while, he wanted to know what was beyond the boundaries of his light, but he couldn't see, being dark. So he said, "What the heck? I'll call it night." And he resolved always to keep it separate. And with this, God's creation began a march. Day, night, day, night, day, night, day, night, day, night. As God marched around his sphere of light, he thought that it would be better if he could push out all that water outside. God wasn't sure why he found himself doing that. He just felt it made sense. And so he left some of the water inside and collected it all together and called it seas. God also wanted to name his sphere of light, so he called it firmament, a fine vessel which floated through the waters of its origin. And everything was so neat and orderly. Day and night were neatly divided, and water and dry land were clearly separated, and God grinned broadly. So God tried his hand at making something new. So he said to himself, "I'll cause green life to appear on the dry land, and creature life to come from the seas." And God was proud because it made so much sense, and it was so orderly. And so he called forth green life, and he was so happy because it just burst forth all over the dry land. But even as he was smiling, a very strange thing happened. Instead of the march, green life started a waltz. Plant seed, new plant. Plant seed, new plant. Plant seed, new plant. This confused God. Instead of being in step with his day-night march, led by the sun and fellow officers to keep night in step, green life waltzes. It wasn't that he didn't like the waltz. Something deep inside him really did. He was just confused. But confused as he was, he decided to stick to the plan. So next he called forth creature life, hoping it would follow his march, but secretly wanting it to waltz. And as he called, creature life exploded out of the seas, and God found himself smiling as the waltz intensified, as it danced and swirled out of the oceans into the air and up onto the land and joined in with green life's waltz. Creature seed, new creature, life after its kind, tree fruit, new tree, and God tapped his foot to the waltz, all the time wondering why it was happening and why he was enjoying it. I mean, all that dancing and partying going on didn't exactly fit with the orderly march he had intended. He knew the answer went deep as the oceans of his birth. So he thought to make a mirror of himself in order to see his image. I'll make a person like myself. Then maybe I'll know why I want to march and waltz at the same time. So God very carefully made a mirror, making sure not to leave out anything. And at last it was done. And God turned and peered into the mirror. At first he rubbed his eyes to make sure that he was focusing, and then he laughed outright at the joke that he had been playing on himself. For the mirror showed not one, but two images, a he and a she, marching and waltzing, like sides of the same coin, linked together like two sides of the same coin. So God understood, and they joined in the birth dance. Have a blessed Christmas and a grace-filled New Year.
This is another poem I'd like to share with you. It's from a book called God's Trombones by James Weldon Johnson. And this poem is Go Down Death, a funeral sermon. Weep not, weep not. She is not dead. She's rested in the bosom of Jesus. Heartbroken husband, weep no more. Grief-stricken son, weep no more. Left lonesome daughter, weep no more. She's only just gone home. Day before yesterday morning, God was sitting up in his great high heaven, looking down on all his children, when his eye fell on Sister Caroline, tossing on her bed of pain. And God's big heart was touched with pity, with the everlasting pity. And he commanded that tall, bright angel standing at his right hand, call me death. And that tall, bright angel cried in a voice that broke like a clap of thunder, call death, call death. And the echo sounded down the streets of heaven till it reached way back to that shadowy place where death waits with his pale white horses. And death heard the summons, and he leaped on his fastest horse, pale as a sheet in the moonlight. Up the golden street death galloped, and the hoofs from his horse struck fire from the gold, but they didn't make no sound. Up death rode to the great white throne and waited for God's command. And God said, go down, go down, go down, death, go down to Savannah, Georgia, down in Yamacraw, and find Sister Caroline. She's borne the burden in the heat of the day. She's labored long in my vineyard, and she's tired. She's weary. Go down, death, and bring her to me. And death didn't say a word. But he loosed the reins from his pale white horse, and he clamped the spurs to his bloodless sides. And out and down he rode through heaven's pearly gates, past suns and moons and stars. On death rode, and the foam from his horse was like a comet in the sky. On death rode, leaving the lightnings flash behind. Straight on down he came. While we were watching round her bed, she turned her head and looked away. She saw what we couldn't see. She saw old death coming like a falling star. But death didn't frighten Sister Caroline. He looked to her like a welcome friend, and she whispered to us, "I'm going home." Then she smiled and closed her eyes. And death took her up like a baby, and she lay in his icy arms, but she didn't feel no chill. And death began to ride again, up beyond the evening star, out beyond the morning star, into the glittering light of glory. And there he laid Sister Caroline on the loving breast of Jesus. And Jesus took his own hand and wiped away her tears. And he smoothed the furrows from her face. And the angels sang a little song. And Jesus rocked her in his arms and kept us saying, "Take your rest, take your rest, take your rest. Weep not, weep not. She is not dead, she's resting in the bosom of Jesus." Amen. May you have a blessed Advent.
On behalf of all of us here at Loyola House, the Ignatius Jesuit Centre, and the Jesuit community, thank you for attending our virtual open house. I wish you all the best for the rest of this Advent and a very Merry Christmas, and may God's blessing surprise you in the new year. God bless and goodbye.
Glory to